Hello, welcome to my channel. Recently we talked about African violet propagation from leaves, and in this episode I will show you when and how I separate the baby plants that grow from the mother leaf. Here I found a few planted leaves that have produced babies, and we will take a look together at each of them and decide whether the babies are ready to be separated. And then I will show you how I separate the baby plants and pot them up. Normally it takes several weeks for a leaf to produce the babies. So here is, for example, Ness Orange Pico that I planted on July 24th, which was about 2.5 months ago. And it has produced some babies, but they are very small, and it is way too early to separate them. So I will keep these with the mother leaf. So when is the best time to separate the baby plants from the mother leaf? As a rule of thumb, they need to be a size of a dime or a size of a quarter, depending on whether it's a miniature variety or a standard variety. So this is a very large, strong baby of a standard variety by Optimara called Rhapsody Michelle, and it is ready to be separated from the mother leaf and potted up in its own house. To separate it, first I need to prepare a separate pot for the baby. For the pots I use the same plastic cups that I use for leaf propagation. I use two kinds of plastic cups. The 3-ounce cups that are available in the supermarkets. They're called bathroom plastic cups, and they're 3 ounce each. And for miniature varieties I use 2-ounce plastic cups, and they're also available at various convenience stores. I make drainage holes in them using a soldering iron, or you can also use scissors and just cut the sides of the bottom of the pot. I also make a label for each pot using electrical tape and a permanent Sharpie marker. And I use this tape that I get from Amazon and this type of a very fine, ultra fine point Sharpie permanent marker. For potting mix, I use my own recipe with two main ingredients, Promix BX and coarse perlite at a ratio of 50-50. And here is the recipe. When I'm ready to separate the baby from the mother leaf, I wait for the potting mix to be on the drier side because it's easier to work with it. And then I squeeze out the mother leaf with the baby off the pot. And then, as you see here, there are very strong roots developed. And the key here is to separate the baby with the roots from the mother leaf that has its own root system. And so it's easiest to do it when the potting mix is dry. So I release as much of the potting mix as I can first, and then pull the mother leaf away from the baby, and it separates very easily. And so here you see the mother leaf with the roots and the baby that has healthy roots as well. What happens if you break off the mother leaf like that when pulling, and then the roots stay with the baby? this part can start rotting in the soil, and it can create all sorts of growth issues for the baby. So it's important to separate the roots of the mother leaf completely. Now it's ready to be potted up. We take the pot, the labeled pot that we prepared ahead of time, and then the potting mix. Put a little bit of the potting mix on the bottom, and then place the baby with the roots inside, and then start filling gradually around the roots. We need to be careful not to bury the center of the rosette. So when I do it, I tap gently on the pot so that the potting mix distributes evenly in between and around the roots. And then we can press gently around, just to make sure that the potting mix has filled up the entire pot. And then here, let's look at the center. The growth center has to be above the surface of the potting mix. And now we just gently water it with regular water. I don't use the fertilizer at first, and then I start adding some fertilizer for the subsequent waterings. So our baby is all potted up and is ready to go into a mini greenhouse. It is important not to wait for too long to separate the babies, because sometimes the babies can start growing long stems. Let's separate 3 babies here from another standard variety called Operas Paulo. They were planted 5 months ago in May of 2020. Size-wise, they are still kind of smallish. The leaves are about the size of a dime. They haven't reached the size of a quarter here, but we can see visually here that they have started growing long stems, and I will show you what they look like up close when we get them out and separate them. So the procedure is the same. We squeeze on the pot here and then pull out the contents by the mother leaf, and then release as much potting mix as possible. And again, we can see a lot of roots here, and so the main task here is to get out the mother leaf without damaging the roots of the babies. We see here that the mother leaf is between the babies, so there is one baby growing in front of it, and then there are 2 babies or more growing on its back. So what do we separate first? Well, it depends, whatever gets released easier. So let's try and pull by the mother leaf. It's better to pull by the mother leaf than by the baby, because babies are more fragile and they're easier to break. So maybe just hold on to one baby and just pull by the leaf gently. And try to disentangle the mother leaf. And you see, this is the problem that I mentioned earlier. We broke the mother leaf, so now we need to look carefully for the remaining stem of the mother leaf to make sure it doesn't stay with one of the babies when the babies are potted up separately, because it can start rotting. So just gently pulling the baby away from the clump, and sometimes we need to keep releasing the potting mix and pull again. And it slowly gets detached. So now we have one baby, and let's look for that stem of the mother leaf so we can remove it. So let's see, we have two more babies here, and as you can see, the central stems got very long, so we will work with them when we pot these up separately. So here is another baby with its own roots, and then here it's easy to see where that mother leaf was, because the chunk, the piece of the mother leaf with the attached roots got detached easily from the last remaining baby. So now we got 3 babies here. Let's take a look at the babies before we pot them up to see if they need any additional cleanup. And we see that the stems, the central stems on the crowns, grew much longer than they should have grown. Like here on this baby, we didn't see a long stem, but here we see that the 2 juvenile leaves are on the very bottom near the roots, and then the stem kept growing longer because I waited for too long to separate these babies from the mother leaves. So we just snap the juvenile leaves off, and now the leaves start growing at the center of the rosette, and this is where we will stop with the potting mix when we pot it up, so that this part grows above the potting mix and this part of the stem is buried together with the roots when we pot it. So we will put again a little bit of the potting mix on the bottom, and then holding the baby by the stem, start adding the potting mix around the roots. Just like that. And then a little watering, and the potting mix has already been pre-moistened, so I don't water them too much. And then when they go to the greenhouse where the mother leaf used to grow, they will still stay in the elevated humidity, so the potting mix needs to be just a little moist. And we will repeat the same procedure with the remaining 2 babies. So again, here the second baby has the same growth pattern. The juvenile leaves are already on the very bottom of the stem, and we can remove them and then pot the rest up. So we have 3 babies of Opera Paulo potted up. Here I have a girl leaf variety, and it's a standard called Pastel Princess. It has grown 2 strong babies that are also ready to be potted up, and the leaves on the babies are a little larger than the dime coin, so I know that they are ready. So the process with the girl leaves varieties is no different than the regular standards with the regular leaves. And we will separate the mother leaf the same way, and it separates rather easily. So we're pulling them apart gently, not to damage the roots. Sometimes they get entangled, so you just need to be a little patient. And the babies are nice and strong. So as I was potting the second baby, I thought this was like a mini juvenile leaf growing, and I removed it, but it turned out that this was a whole separate baby growing. So let's see if we can remove it without having to remove the strong baby. Yeah, it got removed quite easily. And we cannot pot it now because I had removed the tiny little center of this crown, the future crown. So we will discard of this one and finish potting up the main baby here. And just a little bit of water. And so we have now two babies of the curl leaf standard variety Pastel Princess. Here is another baby of Pastel Princess that had lost its mother leaf. As you can see, the mother leaf has completely disintegrated. So here the main point is to try and see if there are any rotten roots from the mother leaf that need to be removed. We need to be extra careful here, so I'm just using a tool that I have handy, which is a letter opener, but basically we cannot pull this baby by the mother leaf out of the pot because the mother leaf is gone. So we need to extract the baby and see if there are any viable roots here for the baby and any rotten roots left over from the mother leaf. So I don't see any roots left over from the mother leaf. I think it has completely dried out. And here it is actually. Yeah, there's some roots, but they're all gone. So we'll just remove them. And the baby, even though it's a little small, but I think the roots are still healthy enough for the baby to survive. So we will pot it into a 2-ounce pot because the roots are rather small, so we need a smaller size pot. And we need to leave it above the potting mix as much as we can so that the center can actually grow. And I think if we put it into a greenhouse, it should do okay. If left in an open air, it might not survive, but they usually survive best in a greenhouse, elevated humidity, growing environment. Sometimes babies grow at a different speed from the same mother leaf. Here, for example, we see a leaf of watermelon snow planted long time ago. It was half a year ago in April. And it produced two babies. One of them is larger in size, and then there is a smaller baby here. Sometimes when the second baby is much smaller and cannot survive on its own, it's helpful to leave it together with the mother leaf. Here, though, we see that the mother leaf is halfway gone. So let's see what we can do and if we can rescue at least a section of the mother leaf, the healthy section, and keep it together with the smaller baby to let the baby grow a little stronger. In the meantime, we will separate the larger baby and pot it up separately. First, we will release all of it from the plastic pot, pulling as always by the mother leaf because that's the strongest part, even though in this case the mother leaf is halfway gone. And then in order to separate the strongest baby, we need to first release a little bit of the potting mix. And here we can observe that the strongest baby has also started suffering from being together with the mother leaf that has started deteriorating here next to it. So to separate, we will pull gently away from the mother leaf and the second baby and set those aside. And here we see another juvenile leaf that is completely gone, so we need to detach it completely from the stem. Otherwise, if part of it stays, it can produce rot or root rot. So we need to make sure that the remaining baby is nice and strong and healthy, and we can pot it up into its own home. And now we just add a little bit of water and it will be going into a greenhouse. Let's take a look at the smaller baby and see if it can survive without the mother leaf, or if we need to keep it together. So when we look at the mother leaf, even though the top section here is still green, but by touching the stem of the mother leaf, we can see that it has started to get soft. So I think in this case, it would make most sense to separate the smaller baby as well. If it was firm and strong, we could just have removed this section here, let it air dry, and then pot it together with the smaller baby so that the smaller baby still grows attached to the mother leaf and gets stronger. But I think in this case we might be risking losing the smaller baby because the mother leaf is not healthy at this point and needs to be removed. So we remove it in a way that the whole mother leaf together with the roots is gone. And then here there is a tiny little juvenile leaf that needs to be removed because it's not gonna get any stronger. And then there is a second juvenile leaf here that we could remove as well, but because the baby is so small, I'm gonna leave it intact for now, and I will remove it later once it grows up a little bit. So now we will pot it up. And it is ready to go to a greenhouse. With variegated varieties, it is important to consider not only the size of the baby's leaves when separating them from the mother leaf, but also the amount of chlorophyll in the leaves of the babies to make sure that the baby is viable enough to survive on its own. The chlorophyll is what makes the leaves green and what helps in the process of photosynthesis that is required for the healthy growth of African violets and other plants. Here are two examples. One demonstrates here that the leaves are still very small, and this is the Happy Harold variety, which is highly variegated, and some of the leaves have more chlorophyll, like this one or this one, and some of them have less, and that's the adult plant. And these are the propagated leaves from this plant. Here the babies are way too small, and we can compare it to a size of a dime coin to see the size of the leaves on the babies. So they need to wait, even though some of the leaves are already green enough to survive, to make the baby survive. And here is an example of a larger baby of the same variety. So the largest leaf is already the size of a dime coin, but the remaining leaves are still very small, and not only that, but they are also very pale. So they have very little chlorophyll, very little green in them. And in order for this baby to do well on its own, I will wait to separate it from the mother leaf until it grows at least another set of leaves, and the leaves will be mostly green. And finally, here we have a leaf pot or a mother leaf that has started growing babies, but all of them are growing on the back of the leaf, so they're not getting enough light to grow strong. In this case, we can either break off portion of the mother leaf like that, or we can cut it off with a X-Acto knife here, but in this case it's unnecessary because we broke it off and it just broke off easily. And so now the babies will have access to light and can grow a little stronger before we can separate them. And so today we separated and planted one baby of Optimara's Rhapsody Michelle, 3 babies of Opera's Paolo, 3 babies of Pastel Princess, 2 babies of Watermelon Snow, and also made a correction to a mother leaf of Buckeye Nostalgia. Thank you for joining me today. Stay safe and be well. If you found this video helpful, and if you'd like to stay tuned for my future videos, press the like button and subscribe.